We had a little bit of tension break after that.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad we did.
Well, if you want to watch her reaction, you can head on over to the Patreon.
There's more this time.
But for the most part.
Also, I'm sorry, I just realized who I think you look like with that blonde in the very front of your hair. Imogen from Heartstopper.
Yes. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, sorry. It just hit me and I was like, ah! All right. Episode 3. I'm Kristen.
Yeah, I know. I was like, hello, everyone. I'm Rachel.
And I am Will. This is So I'm Watching The Fall of the House of Usher, Season 1, Episode 3.
Murder in the Rue Morgue.
Oh, boy. It was the monkey episode that we were afraid of. But I guess
we're still not certain it's the only monkey episode, but this feels like a good culmination.
I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
Considering that I was the most afraid of it, I really liked how they did it. And I made a comment while we were watching where I was like, the way he uses darkness is so good. And to that point, the way he shows and doesn't show, I really, really like. Because otherwise, if you just show everything, it's gratuitous.
For sure.
But
he's not Eli Roth.
Which I actually watched Hostel.
Did you?
I don't want to watch it again.
Yeah.
But I liked it more than I thought I would. I didn't realize that it was funny. Or it's not funny. That's the wrong word. It's like a satire about like ugly Americans.
Okay.
About like American entitlement and stuff.
Okay.
And so I was kind of like, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
But no, it because we know he can and will show us things.
Yeah.
It makes when he does and doesn't very fascinating. We did open up with the aftermath of the like Bacchanalia. Pym was investigating and he found Morella still alive, unfortunately.
Just no thanks.
Yeah.
And
if I was Pym, I just might carry around emergency overdoses of morphine for this family.
Yeah.
So they brought her in and they had her hospitalized and Roderick.
Yeah. His reaction was actually like pretty great when he was like, the dad was like, didn't you hear me? Your brother's dead. And he goes, yeah, dead Perry, whatever. What happened? And he just was like very good.
I so far this is almost a comedy to me. I have laughed a lot at this one.
It's very funny.
And considering that this ended up being the kind of Kate Siegel, the Camille episode.
Yeah.
Because I was just assuming it was going to be
Victorine.
Victorine.
I definitely felt Victorine, yeah.
She had really good material the whole way through. Yeah. I really liked when they were having the meeting, because basically they discover the aftermath of the party, and they're trying to decide how to spin it. And
Frederick has put his foot down that Pym needs to do it. It needs to come from outside the family. And when Madeline was like telling...
Well, Madeline was like, just deflect. Like, blame it on somebody else. And that's when Camille was like, but wait a minute.
Absolutely not.
You can't buy sympathy.
Yeah.
And this is... And the first of her several very funny line readings was she doesn't even look at Victorine, where she was like, no, he didn't invite his sister to the orgy.
To the orgy, yeah. But they were like, but he invited his sister-in-law? Like, that's weird. I also loved when she was like, he was very Paul Newman about his charity work when he was alive. And I was just like, whatever. But it was very funny. And the way that she just immediately took, and Victorine even looked a little impressed, but
they all did.
But it was Tamerlane that was the most like, oh, like now I get why we keep you around.
Well, I feel like with publicists or just with PR people, no one really takes that job very seriously until someone needs a PR person.
Well, because people don't respect it because they think anyone can do it, and they don't realize how actually hard it is.
No.
You have to be spinning all the plates in the air all the time, also making dinner to put on the plates, and then making sure everything is balanced.
And you have to know everyone's food allergy and their preferences and how they like it and what temperature that they like it and what time they like to eat and what time they don't like to eat.
Ultimately, you're hired to make someone else likable, which is very tricky.
It can be hard.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
So, Rachel has a degree in.
It's just, you have to be very, very good at reading people, reading situations, and then I feel like a lot of people in this profession grew up with a lot of trauma, especially having like emotionally unstable parents, because you learn a defense mechanism is you are aware of the environment of like your entire household, basically, and you are anticipating everyone's moves, and so you learn how to figure that out.
Well, it's also it's cut from the same cloth as, say, like a lawyer, but it doesn't have the respect or like the prestige.
I think it's closer to a surgeon because there's a god complex involved as well.
Well, I meant lawyer in like the spin, like constantly having to find the angle.
But the thing that I find slightly more honorable in the public relations side of it is you're working with like the human aspect rather than the law, like the law of man, where it's just like you can kind of manage people, and that is simultaneously easier and also hard at the same time.
So, why was Camille out to get Victorine?
They just don't like each other. We have not figured out why yet.
I'm curious if
because Verna was like, you
could have been strongest together.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious if because they are both very strong women, you know, society and the patriarchy says you can't have two strong women like each other. And so I wonder if they were pitted against each other.
But neither of them seem to have any beef with Madeline.
Well, Madeline's much more. They're both sort of butch, like they're both very masculine, in the way that they present. Where Madeline, though she is extremely strong and terrifying,
she leads into her feminine.
Very feminine, very feminine is what I would say. So I could see Camille and Victorine. I almost wish this was like the finale, like this series was like I want to know the family. Apart from this tragedy, kind of just the succession of it, because it's like I could see how they were sort of competing for a similar vibe. So she was trying to figure out what Victorine was doing with the monkeys because the numbers weren't adding up. And something that I was actually really impressed with this episode, and thus the show, and thus Mike Flanagan, is that it's one of my favorite things when an artist can surprise me with inevitability. Because basically, from the moment we see the monkey on the table, we're like, okay, the monkey's gonna go berserk and kill somebody.
At least a monkey.
Yeah, and this whole episode, I mean, it opens with the monkeys chittering and screeching, and so this whole episode, we were sort of like, well, it's coming. And yet, when it happened, it did sort of surprise me, and it did sort of feel... Well, I'm surprised at how exciting. Like, it was horrifying, but it was still exciting.
So good.
And it's just, like... I don't know. Like when you see something coming, but yet it still surprises you. I really enjoy that. She had some really good material with Leo. Yeah. And what's his partner's name?
I don't know.
We're unconvinced.
Boring.
Yeah.
Well, he gives me I don't remember his name, but the Jack Falahy from How to Get Away with Murder.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And it kind of gives me that vibe. And a similar thing happened in How to Get Away with Murder, where they were like, okay, well, we need to actually make your character interesting.
Yeah. I don't think he's even...
I'm not sure what their connection is, because it really seems like his partner resents Leo.
Well, Leo doesn't like him either. They're like boyfriends, but weird.
Yeah, and I've yet to get what is their connection. So
like how they met?
Well, yeah, like why?
Like, why is that guy sticking around for this? He doesn't seem like this kind of guy. And now his cat's dead.
Yep.
And his boyfriend's about to be dead too.
But no, we got some really good stuff with Camille and Leo and boyfriend.
Yeah, I can't find him. I don't know what his name is.
We're in a slightly gross point. The TV show.
Oh wait, no, Julius. Sorry, I found him.
We're in the TV show that we reference, Gross Point, where it's like every character has 3 names.
Yeah.
So it's like a sprawling ensemble, and then on top of that, you need to know all the different
Well, because they also do keep calling him Leo, but she called him Napoleon in episode 1. So I think it's like there's also nicknames all in there as well. We got some more past stuff with Roderick and
I did not.
And the Rufus guy.
My eyes glazed over with that scene.
Basically,
what was that about?
So basically, Roderick was just working in the mailroom, but he had like come across this drug from this other guy, and his
brain farted.
It's from a competing
pharmaceutical company,
but he didn't patent the
yeah.
drug.
So basically, it all belonged to the other pharmaceutical company.
Wait, say that again. So Roderick had an idea?
No, he found the chemist
so
at the other. No, he was in it with that guy. He and the chemist were in it together, but it turns out the other pharmaceutical company owned it because he worked on it on company time. So instead, Rufus bought the other company and turned it into like a conglomerate.
And he bought the patent for that drug, so he owned it. So had Roderick and the chemist bought the patent for that drug, it would have been a more viable selling point because they owned the patent. But instead he was selling an idea, and unless for something like this that's tangible, you have to own the tangible object as well as the idea.
It's like the copyright for the book.
Yeah, like it's he stole their intellectual property basically.
Roderick
stole.
No,
he didn't steal.
the guy, the hustler guy.
Rufus.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, so then obviously Madeline fucked him into a coma at their house later and was like, you just have to like play the long game and all of this stuff. And so he's
I loved that.
Yeah.
I really loved it because Madeline was sort of recanting their time in foster and how she was able to like engineer like.
And Annabelle was shocked.
Yeah.
She was shocked.
She was such an afterthought in that scene. I mean, she has been the whole time. But...
She was like half shocked Pikachu and half caveman SpongeBob. Like, what do I do? Like, if I don't move, maybe she can't see me.
I just love that anytime we check in on them in that timeline, it is Roderick and Madeline, and then the camera will just cut to Annabelle Lee across
with
the room.
Shrieking baby
across the room.
With a beanie on constantly.
And it's almost like a jump scare because you're like, oh God, she's there.
Well, she also, what's so fascinating to me is that like Madeline has all these big plans, and to a lesser extent, Roderick has all these big plans too. But I have a couple things to say, because like even when he's talking in the present day to Dupin, he is saying like, I'm a victim in this too. Like, this was never totally my idea. The like Ligadone wasn't even mine. Like what's what you don't understand about this whole thing is that like I didn't start this, but like it's finishing because of me. And so it was like in that conversation, fuck, I lost my second point.
No, keep going.
No, I just think it's so fascinating. Oh no, I found it. I found it back. So when they were laying in bed later, after he is still, you can see Zach Gilford still like putting together like what was said by Madeline earlier. And Annabelle is just like, oh my gosh, like, well, we can afford the medication that the baby needs that we haven't been able to afford, and we can fix the air conditioner. And it's like, he and Madeline have these big, big plans, and she's like, I just want to have a life.
She was like, yay, $500.
She was like, $500, never heard of such wealth. And he's like, I like can't wait to find out how she gets out of the picture. Yeah. Like, is she the first sacrifice? Is she the first one to go? I don't know. That was a very interesting scene for me, because she is distraught when Madeline comes over and sits next to Roderick and is like talking him through the whole thing. Like, you have to do it, make it so that you can stab him with the trowel that he was gonna brick you up in the wall with. And Annabelle is just like, ugh. And then later
and my whole thing, I was like, but like, where's the lie though?
No, that's the thing. She's totally right. Yeah, she's totally right. And then just the fact that like he's still not even convinced, and then he continues to just recite to her what I guess Edgar Allan Poe doesn't exist in this universe, so it's not like he's stealing, but it's like what is on record as maybe the saddest, most tragic epic poem in like the history of literature.
It's really beautiful. I read it last night.
It's very beautiful. But like he keeps on reading it to or like reciting
Kingdom by
it
the Sea.
to his wife, and I'm like, she flings herself off a cliff. Like, I don't know what you're doing here.
Oh, yeah.
But that was like my biggest takeaway from the stuff in the past. And he did like he did get a promotion and a 15% raise and just a $500 check. So he's like he didn't get nothing out of it.
So that was a lesson, basically. That was
Rufus was like
was schooling him.
You can't just come in here and fart ideas in my general direction. You have to be able to back it up with something.
Okay.
I feel like I can feel Madeline just being like, I can't do this because the world doesn't allow a woman at this
Cersei,
point
I
to
wasn't
do that.
kidding.
And so she's literally from sheer
She's puppeteering
will,
him.
Yeah, she's just like, come on, man!
Yeah.
I mean, just do it. And he's just like, I'm just here having a good time.
He does seem just kind of
I'm
like
surprised
because
because apparently she's already dead. I didn't clock Madeline's already dead in the timeline.
I believe so.
They showed a picture when they were doing the montage.
Yeah.
And part of me is like, I feel
Why did he say she was in the basement like that?
And she's hard to. She's
well
like,
because they're all dead
hardest
and
one
they're
to
all
talk
in
to.
that house.
I don't. When did we
Do you
have the
think?
montage where Madeline was dead?
In the very first
saw
episode,
her face,
they were. It was kind of like a murder board. Like it was kind of like one of those like red string, and it was showing all of the siblings, and it said deceased and stuff. And Madeline was in it. And we also got a comment saying that.
Yeah.
And so it's like I almost feel like it should be opposite, where I feel like Roderick should die and Madeline should be Weekend at Bernie'sing him. But
well, we also got Camille like grabbed his shoulders from behind and he kind of freaked out, and then he like threw a glass of the cognac like at her specter as well. It's the Japan stuff is so interesting because he's like very clearly concerned whenever he has one of these episodes, but at the same time he's like, you're a crook, man, and he like admitted hardcore to a crime because they had put all toxic shit in the tanks. It wasn't just that something had gone wrong in there. They put toxic shit in the tanks.
They put like the byproduct in the tanks to hide it until
Prospero hooked the sprinklers up to the tanks from a friend's cousin's friend's friend. And so it was like, and that's how they were spinning. It was just like a horrible accident.
And I also love that, like, he did that whole monologue
I was about to say, I forgot I was going to open this by saying that was a very lemon episode.
Yeah, it was very lemon.
I love that, like, after he, like, waxed poetic forever about how capitalism works, Japan's like, so anyway. And then, like,
it cuts to Japan going,
I think you need to do one of those. We need to have one of that sound effect where it's just like, and just close up on his face.
Oh, so that's what I mean. Where I was like, I'm finding this funny, in a way that
it's giving long-winded.
It also, what I think is also interesting. I think Carla Gugino, like Verna, has visited everyone except for Frederick and Leo. So they've all seen her now, besides the two of them.
When did Tamerlane see her?
She's the prostitute.
Girl.
Yeah.
That's right.
But
with that English accent, governor.
Hello, Ralph.
Well, no, because you said that she had Samantha Sloyan's cadence down.
So I was gonna say to that,
I just completely blocked that out.
I do think
there's a lot to take in.
There's a lot. I do think it is partially Samantha Sloyan, but I also think that is it's a very Mike Flanagan cadence. He writes in a really interesting way as well.
Yeah.
So it's like it's both. But she was really like I wonder if Samantha Sloyan had a hard time keeping a straight face for the first take.
Well, I was about to be like, much like Roderick, Carla Gugino tackles these accents straight on.
Yeah.
She loves, if we need to pull a sucker punch clip.
Oh my God.
We can argue, people can debate whether it's good or bad. You cannot debate whether or not she's committed.
She's committed. That is exactly what I was going to say.
She knows what she's in when she's doing
She's diving, just eyes closed, head first, can't
love
lose.
It. Yeah. But I obviously understood that Verna is quote unquote the Raven and quote unquote death or some type of entity that way. It caught me off guard that she's sort of, it's not omniscient, but it's almost like she's in multiple places at the same time.
I think she could be.
Mm-hmm.
And that is interesting to me.
I also like
because the scene at Tamerlane's was happening at the same time that Camille was going to the, like...
I mean, yeah, I think you could be timey-wimey with it.
I don't think she ran across town and ditched the wig.
I do think that the fact that she's, like, warning them is very interesting.
So interesting.
And then to take a sharp left turn, I wanted to make sure that this got in the episode, too. I think that Henry Thomas is doing some of his best physical acting in this television show.
He has this, like, gait. The way he's walking.
Yeah, it's very, like, he just sort of comes, like, what I'm thinking of something where he comes, like, flouncing into the hospital. He was very, like, arms all over, flouncing into the hospital, and it's reminding me of something that I can't place, of a character, like...
Hey there, Johnny. Keeping busy or hardly working?
All arms and legs, like, running in somewhere. But I can't place what it is. But he's doing something very physical, and his stupid, skeezy little half a
ponytail.
Bun ponytail thing, I mean, it's giving.
Well, I feel like it's him using so much of his body I think he is trying to take up space because his father makes him feel so little.
Yeah.
And so he needs to, like, physically spread. Yeah. I'm sure when he sits down in a chair, he's basically doing a split or, like, a straddle, just because it's
man spreading as much as possible.
Get wide enough.
I did also love the Camille little monologue with Leo about what all of the ushers do. They were like, she said Roderick is what was he like? But he's singing out of key, like a Roderick cover band.
Oh yeah,
he's singing out of key. And we found out that Leo makes video games, but she says you just pay people that make video games. And Victorine actually is not a surgeon. That's why she's with Dr. Ruiz, because she's the surgeon, and Victorine is just, like, trying to get that mesh thing going.
And she's now intertwined with Verna, because Verna is, like, playing, like, the part of a patient or something.
Again, it's the thing I said every single time, where it's like, and this is a very prideful family, but that is a sin for a reason, and they are all of them being confronted.
She couldn't have been clearer with Camille.
Yeah,
and she gave Camille, like,
three different
outs.
Mm-hmm. She's just, it's so fascinating watching her do this, because every single time she's like specifically with Victorine, where she was like, I'm just so worried about somebody stealing my social security number. I don't care if they know I have a heart condition. And then what does Victorine do? Immediately she opens up her confidential medical file, takes photographs, and then is trying to get her involved in human trials for something that already doesn't work in chimps.
Yep. And I also think it's interesting that, going back to, like, the giving the chances to Camille, she said this could have just happened at home
peacefully
in your bed.
sleep.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. Yeah. So they're dying regardless.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's interesting.
And again, I think it's
the price that
Roderick paid. Yeah, I think it's because they made this. Him and Madeline made this deal with her in the bar.
I know I had already talked about Faust, and I know Faust is not Edgar Allan Poe, but I was thinking more like that.
Dante, isn't
it? I think so, because the angel, like, gives him, or the like,
Johann Wolfgang von Goethe.
The angel gives him. It's like a redemption. So that's kind of what I thought we were doing. Why I thought it was sort of like, this is the test that you're gonna pass, and it's like, no, they're dying either way. It's just
I think that's why specifically he's speaking to Dupin, because he's like, the price has already. Like, I've already paid the price. Mm-hmm. At this point, I have nothing left. I'm an old man also. It kind of doesn't matter if I tell you the truth. Like, how long am I going to be in prison? I've got this degenerative vascular condition, too. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm going to be dead regardless.
Camille also fired Toby and
Tina / Beth because they apparently fell in love with each other.
It was so funny.
I love
so funny.
her,
so funny.
like,
so worthless, those two.
and the fact that she just was like, this is so pedestrian, I can't believe this. And, like, you have to be fired because you're totally useless to me now. I can't even fuck you satisfactorily because I'm just going to laugh from now on. Fantastic.
Also,
there was still a human-sized cage in that bedroom, too. I feel like they slept in there together.
I don't think we mentioned that there was a human cage. Also, I just love the power move that Kate I'm going to assume Kate Siegel made to give Camille armpit hair.
Yep.
Oh, I didn't even notice. Yeah.
Yep.
When she like moved her arm, I was like,
You gotta love it.
that is amazing.
She may be in a female presenting body, but she is all masculine energy.
Big dick energy.
100%.
Yeah.
I think she fucks like Flanagan.
I just when she said she wanted to starfish on the bed,
And then she belly flopped and was just like,
And she said I have to come at least twice before we have a conversation.
we did get. This was our most active reaction thus far.
Yeah.
If you want to watch along with us on the
a lot of
Patreon.
me going,
Well, because we had the dead cat,
Yep.
which Rachel
Yeah.
didn't appreciate.
it wasn't that bad.
Well, it just looked so like it looked like they dusted off the
She
Salem
just-
the cat puppet.
which I appreciate. Thank you, because I would rather that than
She was
hyper-realistic.
She was good. She didn't.
she was sweet. She didn't deserve
was
to die.
cute. Sure.
not. And she's not even a part of the Usher family.
I
No.
will say Leo did have it locked and loaded. Oh God, did we let her out last night? Because they just
well, he had time to cook it.
no,
up.
yeah, he cleaned
This-
up all that blood, and he did not clean like a man would clean.
No.
He
No.
cleaned like it was his job.
Yeah.
It cannot be the first cat he's killed. It cannot be.
Oh.
And the reveal too, because he wakes up and
He rubs his face.
With
he's like
blood,
covered in
yeah.
blood for
Yeah.
minutes before he even realizes.
Yeah.
That was really good. And we had two of our strongest reactions. The first was Morella taking her bandages off
Yeah.
in the hospital. We
But,
were
like,
shrieking.
in front of Lenore. Like,
well, she didn't. I mean, yes,
Yeah.
Lenore was there, but Morella didn't like wait.
no,
for-
of course, but
she
it's like,
did
but
not know.
Lenore had to see that is
Uh-huh.
the point.
And when that kind of stuff happens, I kind of call shenanigans because she is so hooked up to monitors. Like, and her heartbeat was going insane.
I agree.
And it took entirely too long for anyone to
Like
come in there.
Lenore had to
Still
push
had
the
to
call
call.
button.
Yeah, and she was like already in
I
the
mean,
process
there
of
are
ripping it off.
supernatural forces at play, but
Sure,
I
that's fair.
guess.
we already kind of talked about it. But to close out with it, the monkey scene,
Yeah. That monologue from Carla Gugino, too.
and
is,
just the visual of her jumping onto the table,
like, terrifying.
we screamed.
Yeah.
It was so weird, and just that she was also the chimpanzee.
Yeah.
Yeah, when she was screaming as Carla Cugino, but it was in the same way that
As
the
the
chimps
chimps.
With
was
the
The incision. And I also, one of the
and Camille's just like, fuck it.
Yeah.
she was like, I got mine.
Yeah. Also, one of my favorite things, we talked about it a little bit, is one of the things that or one of the reasons why I think that Kate Siegel is actually very good, despite her getting shit from a lot of like people who I think are
People criticize her
rude.
sometimes, and we think she's great.
But the way that she was reacting as Carla Gugino kept getting closer and closer, she was breathing so shallowly and fast. She looked like a rabbit, like prey. Like she was.
Yep.
It was a very good piece of physical acting. I really appreciated that. And then the just disgusting, gory aftermath that the
Yeah.
people saw in the morning.
Well, and
Just
the monkey, because I mentioned,
I
was
feel like that might have been just been Andy Serkis. He's very good at the mocap ape stuff.
Yeah.
yeah, because I mentioned, I was like, I don't know if my mom's gonna be able to watch this because that's monkeys. She doesn't do monkeys, and I was like, I think it's because of Edgar Allan Poe.
Might be.
She like had a nightmare when she was a girl that it was the middle of the night, and monkeys were coming down the street taking people out of their beds.
Oh God.
And it's like,
Oh no.
My mom had a capuchin when she was 17.
I just like monkeys.
His name was Pepe, and he had to wear a diaper, and he rode the little dachshund around the house.
So cute.
The Fritz didn't care for it because he like clutched his fur to like, and so he would just be like walking around, kind of like wincing. And did I ever told you that story? He escaped the house one time.
Fritz or the monkey?
Well, both.
Oh.
Fritz escaped the house, but Pepe was on his back, and so
Oh.
my grandpa was like driving around the neighborhood like a real creep if it was present day, like asking kids if they had have you seen a little dachshund running around? And the little boy that finally was like, did he have a monkey on his back? And my grandpa was like, he sure did. And he was like, he went that way. It was like straight out of a movie.
you know what?
You're in
He
luck,
absolutely
mister.
did.
I've been waiting for someone to ask me that.
I thought it was gonna take longer.
Yeah, right?
Okay. Well, we're gonna watch the next one, and then we'll talk about it when we're done.
Bye.